Over 60. 5 best cheeses to help control blood sugar and type 2 diabetes. If you remove cheese after a diabetes diagnosis, you may have accidentally made your blood sugar harder to control without realizing it. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why one of the most feared foods in your kitchen might actually be one of the most stable foods for your metabolism after 60. But before we continue, take 1 second to subscribe so you don't miss future evidence-based videos on aging, blood sugar, and real-world nutrition that actually make sense in daily life, and comment your age and whether you still eat dairy after your diagnosis, because I read those comments and they directly influence what I create next. Now here is something most people never hear clearly. Cheese is not a carbohydrate food, it does not behave like bread, rice, or sugar, and yet most people treat it as if it is equally dangerous, and that misunderstanding leads to one of the most common mistakes I see in older adults with type 2 diabetes. They eliminate cheese completely, and then months later they struggle with cravings, unstable energy, and worse snacking patterns than before. And here is the part that surprises most people. Cheese does not spike blood sugar immediately, but it is not metabolically invisible either, because protein can be slowly converted into glucose through liver metabolism hours later, and fat can delay digestion in a way that shifts glucose response into a later window, which means if you only measure blood sugar 1 hour after eating, you are only seeing part of the story, not the full metabolic picture. This is why timing matters more than fear, and why portion control becomes the real control mechanism, because at small amounts cheese behaves like a stabilizer, but at large amounts it becomes calorie-dense and can work against your goals without you noticing. Now before I show you the 5 cheeses, here is something most doctors never explain clearly, and this changes everything. What matters most is not whether a food raises blood sugar instantly, but how it changes appetite, gut response, and eating behavior over the next 3 to 6 hours, because that is where most real glucose instability actually comes from. So let's begin. And stay with me until the last cheese, because number 1 is the one almost nobody expects to see on a diabetes-friendly list. Number 5, fresh mozzarella, and this is where most people underestimate the science because it looks like a simple soft cheese, but it actually plays a role in gut balance and meal structure that matters far more than people think. Fresh mozzarella contains high-quality protein, minimal carbohydrates, and natural fermentation compounds that may support gut microbiome diversity. And why does that matter? Because your gut bacteria influence insulin sensitivity through short-chain fatty acids that help reduce inflammation and improve glucose response at the cellular level. But here is the real-life effect most patients notice. Not a dramatic blood sugar drop immediately, but fewer cravings later in the day, fewer energy crashes, and more stable appetite control, especially when mozzarella is paired with vegetables, olive oil, and fiber-rich foods instead of refined carbs. Number 4, cottage cheese, and this is where things become more practical than biochemical, because cottage cheese is not about what it does in the moment, it is about what it prevents later. It is extremely high in protein relative to calories, which activates satiety hormones that keep you full for hours. And this is critical because most blood sugar spikes do not come from meals. They come from uncontrolled snacking when hunger returns unexpectedly. Cottage cheese helps interrupt that cycle by extending fullness and stabilizing appetite, which reduces impulsive carbohydrate intake later in the day, and over time that is often more powerful than any single blood sugar lowering food effect. But there is one mistake that destroys its benefit completely. Flavored versions with fruit syrup or added sugar, which turn a stabilizing food into a glucose-spiking product without people realizing it. Number 3, feta cheese, and this one is interesting because its value is not just nutrition, it is structure and origin, because traditional feta made from sheep or goat milk contains a different fatty acid profile than cow-based cheeses, and these fats have been associated in research with better insulin sensitivity and healthier fat distribution patterns. But the hidden advantage of feta is behavioral. It has a strong flavor, which naturally forces portion control, meaning people use less while still feeling satisfied, and that alone can improve long-term dietary consistency without conscious restriction. However, feta is also high in sodium, so if you have blood pressure issues, a simple rinse under water can reduce salt content significantly without losing flavor. Number 2, ricotta cheese, and this is where biology becomes more interesting because ricotta is not just cheese, it is a whey-based protein source, and whey protein is one of the fastest absorbed proteins in nutrition science, strongly linked to satiety hormone activation including GLP-1, which directly influences blood sugar regulation after meals. This is the same biological pathway targeted by modern diabetes medications, which means ricotta does not act like a drug, but it interacts with the same system your body already uses to regulate glucose and appetite. Studies have shown that whey protein consumed before meals can significantly reduce post-meal glucose spikes, which is why ricotta is most effective when used strategically, not randomly, especially at breakfast or before carbohydrate-containing meals. And now number 1, aged Parmesan, and this is where most people get surprised because they think of it as a topping, not a metabolic food, but nutritionally it is one of the most concentrated cheeses in existence, extremely high in protein density, virtually zero carbohydrates due to long aging, and most importantly rich in vitamin K2, a nutrient that plays a critical role in directing calcium in the body. This matters because vitamin K2 helps guide calcium into bones and teeth instead of arteries, which becomes especially important in older adults with diabetes, where vascular calcification risk is significantly higher. So Parmesan is not about quantity, it is about precision. A small finishing amount can provide nutritional density without metabolic overload. Now here is something I need you to understand before you change anything in your diet. There are 3 silent traps that cancel all benefits of cheese completely: processed cheese slices that are industrial formulations, pre-shredded cheese with anti-caking starches that add hidden carbohydrates, and flavored dairy products with added sugar that turn stable foods into unstable ones. So here is the real message. Cheese is not about restriction or fear. It is about selection and timing, because when used correctly, mozzarella supports gut balance, cottage cheese controls appetite, feta improves portion behavior, ricotta supports satiety hormones, and Parmesan provides micronutrient density for long-term metabolic support. And if you only remember one idea from this entire video, let it be this: stable blood sugar is not built by removing foods, it is built by understanding how foods behave in your body over time, not just in the first hour after eating. If this helped you, make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss future episodes, and leave a comment telling me which cheese surprised you the most, because I genuinely use that feedback to shape upcoming videos. And remember, the goal is not restriction. The goal is metabolic awareness and smarter daily choices that compound over time.